Open.
Outspoken.
It's Ophthalmology Off the Grid.
An honest look at controversial topics in the field. I'm Blake Williamson.
I'm Gary Wörtz.
Hello, and thank you for listening to Ophthalmology Off the Grid. In this episode, Dr. Tom Tooma, founder, owner, and medical director of NVISION, joins Drs. Gary Wörtz and Blake Williamson to share insights into how he built his successful practice and business. Support for this podcast comes from Bryn Mawr Communications. BMC produces a number of informative podcast series spanning a variety of topics in ophthalmology. Discover a new show at itube.net/podcasts.
Welcome to another episode of Ophthalmology Off the Grid. We're your hosts. This is Blake Williamson and Gary Wörtz. Gary, how you feeling today?
Oh man, I'm excited, Blake. I'm always excited. It's always nice to share a conversation with you. We always have fun together. But again, we have had so many good guests, and this week I'm so excited to introduce Dr. Tom Tooma. So, Tom, thank you so much for carving out some time and getting a chance to talk with us about building your business and brand. That's our theme for this season. Before we get into that, why don't you just introduce yourself? We wouldn't do you justice by introducing you. Please introduce yourself. Give us a little bit of your background, where you practice, and a little introduction. It'd be great.
Let's see. I started practice in '84. I currently practice in Newport Beach. Specialize and limit my practice to refractive surgery. So LASIK, SMILE, ICLs. Do some cross-linking and intacs, but mostly laser vision correction. I am the founder and the owner and the chief medical officer of NVISION Eye Centers. We're in 6 states, 100 some practices. We have about 160 providers, ophthalmologists and optometrists, and about 1,300 teammates on our group. We do all aspects of eye care, so mostly laser vision correction and cataract surgery. Obviously, we have 12 or so surgery centers, and then we do retina, glaucoma, and other subspecialties in ophthalmology. So that's what keeps me excited and busy and engaged in our business and in our profession. It's been an awesome journey.
Blake, how does that strike you? Like, just first impressions, right? Like,
He's got a lot more practice. He's got a lot more practices than I do.
Right. Same.
I wonder what the payroll is. I bet you that payroll check each month is tough. Gary, I want to tell you when I heard about and first met Tom Tooma. I was in Mendoza, Argentina, for like an ICL course at the Zaldivars, and we were in one of the training sessions. And there was this guy there, very polite, very demure, but obviously super sharp, that everyone sort of was like looking towards. He wasn't trying to be the life of the party. He wasn't trying to raise his hand and answer every question, but he was the guy that people kind of called on and would kind of want his advice. I was like, who is this guy? And Roger's like, you don't know that? I was like, no. He said, that's Tom Tooma. He's like, LASIK? I was like, yeah, I've heard of LASIK. He's like,
yeah, I've heard of that too.
Like, he's done more than just about anybody. I said, okay. And I said, well, how big is his practice? And Roger said, much bigger than yours. And that's when I heard about NVISION. I knew Sherry Rowan worked there, of course, and I was asking her about it. I said, okay, so this is the guy that basically started all that and is running that show. With all these different practices, and they're like, yeah. So I was like, I got to get to know this guy. So, you couldn't have a better person on for this season about building a business, because what a business he has helped build along with all his teammates and other doctors. So, Tom, again, thank you so much for joining us.
That's very kind of you. That's much more than I deserve.
Will you just give us a little bit of the genesis of like your early career? I mean, there's obviously a story going from residency and fellowship to where you are now. And I always, I had a little bit of a rocky start myself, kind of a journeyman for a few years, trying to find my footing. I know a lot of other people do as well. What were the early days like before, things really started cooking for you?
Sure. So I started practice in '84 after finishing a fellowship in cornea at Emory, and was very, very interested in refractive surgery. Joined a group of 4 other ophthalmologists who were very entrepreneurial. We had our own surgery center. Those were the early days of ambulatory surgery centers, and they did have a large co-management network, and that's where I learned a lot about co-management with optometrists and with surgery centers. And then sometime in the early 90s, I went and watched one of the first laser vision correction procedures. Within a few minutes, I said, "This is it. This is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life." It was that, that profound of an experience to be in that room, listening to that laser, going tick, 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 tick. And here I am, doing radial keratotomy. And you look at this and say, wow, this is absolutely the future. So I went back literally that same day to my 4 partners and I said, and at that time I had the largest practice of more than 30 ophthalmologists. And I said, you can have my practice, but I want you to support me in investing in laser vision correction and opening multi centers in California to start a multi-site laser vision correction practice that is direct-to-consumer marketing driven and optometric co-management driven. And I want to start, being involved in clinical trials. And at that time, I got involved with the Technolos laser, which was with B&L. So we started doing clinical trials, but within a very short period of time, our optometric co-management network got so enthusiastic about it because they just never liked radial keratotomy, and obviously for very good reasons. And so we had more referrals than we knew what to do with. We were involved in clinical trials, and so a very limited number of cases. And so got the idea of putting a summit laser south of the border in Tijuana, Mexico. And so every other Friday, we would have 2 groups of about 30 patients or so that would go down south of the border. We would do laser vision correction on them in Mexico, and then come back and do all the follow-up care.
Was this pre-FDA approval, essentially?
This was in 93. So the FDA approval was in 95. So we had a couple of years of word of mouth, optometric co-management network that got very enthusiastic about the outcomes. And so, the minute it was approved, we had a laser that we could start, start operating on patients. And that really got us to kickstart refractive surgery. We had 4 centers in Southern California. After a few years, my partners, I wanted to continue to expand and add more offices, and they were closer to a retirement age and did not want to make the investments. And so I wrote a very big check, the biggest check I had written in my life, to exit, buy myself out basically, and started my practice on my own in 98, and then in 99, TLC approached me, and we developed an exclusive joint venture in California that was essentially 50-50, to where we would develop everything together. And then in 2010, that's when I founded NVISION, which is the company that we currently have.
And that was no longer affiliated with TLC at that point?
No, TLC went through bankruptcy in 98. So I bought all the centers out of that bankruptcy, acquired all the centers that we had together in California, and started NVISION.
So you were able to kind of grow that with TLC, and then whenever they went bankrupt, you were able to kind of buy those practices back.
Yeah, I had 2 practices in Southern California, and when I left TLC, we had 9.
Some of the principles I see here, it seems like, Tom, you were willing to bet on a hunch you had, and maybe it was more than a hunch. It feels like it was almost like a light bulb moment or lightning striking, where you had this eureka and you said, this is the future. I'm going to divest and just go my own direction. Was that scary for you? I mean, did you have a wife and kids? I mean, these are the things that sometimes I feel like I have an idea to do something, but then I think about the practicalities of it or the impracticalities of it. And sometimes I feel maybe like I shouldn't go and do something crazy. How was this received when when this conversation hit the dinner table?
To say I had some anxiety about it is way understated. I mean, it was a big step, and so I took a lot of risk financially, and thank the good Lord, it paid off. My wife was all for it because she knew I was frustrated that I could not kind of fulfill a vision that I had in my head because I could see the potential. And so she was all for it. And, I did not, share a lot of my anxieties because I did not want her to be so worried about what we were doing and putting basically our livelihood and our financials at risk. But I've been a risk taker all my life, and but it's been fun. I think when you take risks and the buck stops kind of with your decisions, and if it works out, great, and not everything works out. And there are times where you look back and say, that was kind of stupid. Why did I do that? But you learn, and as long as you look at mistakes as learning experiences, and celebrate those and move forward. And you hope you don't repeat those mistakes, but there always comes up one where there comes another mistake, and so I'm still learning. That's
Tom, does one of those mistakes stick out in your mind? So one thing we always ask is kind of like, tell us about one of the greatest moves you ever made that worked out, but more importantly, maybe a decision that you made that did not work out. To your point, was there ever a market that you went into, or a practice that you bought that ended up being a disaster, or was there something that you passed on, that you shouldn't have, or vice versa? Is there any moves that you made? Because it seems like everything you touch turns to gold, but I'm guessing from hearing you that there's been some challenges.
There's been a lot of tin that has come out of through my journey, but I tell you, the biggest decision and the best decision that I make, and that I would advise anybody to make, is to surround yourself with the smartest people you can surround yourself with, business people and other ophthalmologists, because that's really what catapulted this whole thing. I think as physicians, there's a lot that we don't know about the financial world, about the the contacts, whether it's with private equity or the journey to take to kind of get there, and what people are looking for to form a big company. And so you really need I have felt that and I wish I learned that much earlier in my career, is to surround myself with really very bright people that come from the business world, that have been there, done that have flown the plane before, and were involved in multi-site, large companies, large enterprises. So that was, I would say, the biggest positive that has really catapulted kind of a 9 or 10 practice enterprise to 100. So a couple mistakes I would say that I look back at. There's been a couple practices that we had to shut down that were, if you're looking at a multi-site company, that were in remote areas where they're not very desirable. And once the ophthalmologist leaves, it's really, really tough to recruit to some of those geographically, undesirable areas, even though they had thriving practices and it was a thriving, very profitable practice and a surgery center. We had to close 2 of them because we could not recruit physicians. The other decision that I made was, we were optometrically co-management driven, or substantial portion of our business was co-management driven, and I decided that I would have a direct-to-consumer division under a different brand that was much more affordable, and had a price point that was very different than our co-management model. And it took me a couple of years, year and a half to 2 years, to realize that I did not know enough about direct-to-consumer marketing and how that works to really drive that business. And it happened, we had to shut it down in 2008, 2009, when the crash happened, because all of a sudden the volume just tanked. So there are a lot of lessons that I learned from that. And I think if I were to start that over again, I do believe that I've learned enough to make that happen now. But at that time, I was very naive and spent a ton of money and lost a bunch of money on that venture. But again, a learning lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that gives me a little anxiety as I have gained a few years in this world is that category of unknown, right? That black box that you think you've sort of calculated all the risk and the variables, but there's always that unknown. And when 2020 hit and the pandemic hit, I think we were all bracing for a LASIK shutdown. I know we were thinking that LASIK was going to absolutely tank, that anybody with disposable income was going to be hoarding it, and this was going to be the new end to refractive surgery. And thankfully, just the opposite happened. I'm curious to know, we're a little bit removed from that, thank God. What lessons did you learn through the pandemic? I mean, I can't imagine. I guess you had recently had a partner come in around that time, so maybe things were transitioning a little bit, but what lessons did you learn? I can't imagine having 100 practices, taking that into a pandemic and, coming out the other side. Any lessons or thoughts on managing crisis or managing a big unknown event like that you've learned?
I believe the most important thing is communicating with all your stakeholders, your teammates, your referring doctors, your vendors, your landlords, and I think communication is key. And communicating that we're dedicated to providing safe care, and that we care about our employees, we care about our patients, we care about all our teammates. I thought that was, and I thought that the team did that brilliantly. The team that I have. So we shut down for a few weeks, but we came back roaring into it, because we had a deal that had to be put off because the pandemic happened, and so we had an earnout that we had to earn to show that we can go back to pre-pandemic levels, and we did that within 6 months. Because, as you say, thank God, LASIK came back roaring back, and that was, a decent part of our revenue. But I think communicating to patients that you care and you're going to provide an environment that's very safe for them is key, as well as with our teammates.
Tom, what about how did you go about doing that ramp up when you're going from, just single digit practice to double digit practice, and then now you're at triples? So with Envision, would you look at buying out other practices? What kind of growth would you do? Like, would you find an OD's practice that's more medically minded and buy that and just sort of transform it into an Envision? Or are these old cold start? I'm going to this market, I'm going to hang a sign that says Envision, I'm going to install the doctor, and we're going to get going through co-management. How did you grow initially before you guys sold?
So we did not buy any optometric practices. I don't know much about optometric practices and the optical business and, frames and contacts and all that. So we partnered with ophthalmologists. So when I say partnered, that's, capital letters underlined, because our model is very much a partnership model. We don't buy anybody 100%. We buy anywhere from simple majority to maybe 65% of a practice. And that way our partner still has significant skin in the game. And we promise, these are the things that we're going to be able to deliver, and put a timeline on it and say, we're going to deliver X, Y, and Z. You want to join us because there's something that we have that you don't have, that you want to have. And we'll let you know if we can deliver that, and what's the timeline of delivering that. So we only partnered with ophthalmology practices and acquired surgery centers. We did not do any de novo practices. And we wanted to make sure that the ophthalmologists that we partnered with were like-minded and were very kind of patient-centric, service-oriented, wanted to provide the latest, the best for their patients, that embraced new technology, embraced everything that we embrace as a company, being involved in the newest technology and delivering, 5-star care. And sometimes, we would sign a letter of intent and do our due diligence, and we find out that was not the best partner, and we cut ties very early. But it's really important to us to partner with like-minded ophthalmologists. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, so you kind of function as your own private equity group, essentially, to grow the practice.
Yeah, and so we got a team that got a great CFO and a great CEO before we partnered with Ontario Teachers Pension Plan, and they had, like I said, flown the plane before, so they had the financial contacts to get us a line of credit, substantial line of credit that we were able to use in addition to the cash that was generated from the business to finance our acquisitions, so to speak. We grew to a point where we were attractive to a lot of potential suitors, so to speak, and then we hired an investment. You have to hire an investment banker that basically sends your 100-page book to 100 private equity companies, and then they whittled them down to so many that are interested, and then you have you do the roadshow, so to speak.
So tell me the pitch a little bit, Tom. I'm guessing that maybe you would find an ophthalmologist who's doing their own LASIK or refractive surgery, but maybe not doing their marketing quite up to par, or maybe there's substantial opportunity for growth and they're just not capturing those, and they're maybe losing leads to other markets. You would come to them and say, hey, we can help you sort of rebrand and refresh your LASIK marketing, and the way you deliver patient care kind of stays the same, but the experience for the patient is better. The leads will increase, those sorts of things. Is that the gist of partnering with an ophthalmologist who may be independently providing LASIK, where you kind of are able to come in and put your branding and culture in place? Is that sort of the idea?
So some of it. So LASIK only contributes about 26% or so of our revenue. So it's a small piece. Cataract surgery and lifestyle lenses are a big piece, and our surgery centers are a big piece. And so the approach basically are the things that we can deliver are taking all your headaches away. So we can do your billing, collections, IT, revenue cycle management, financing. You're going to have monthly financial reports. You're going to know exactly what's happening. And then we have a team that comes and trains your counselors, trains your ODs to present the options for the patients, education of what their options are when they're having cataract surgery for lifestyle lenses. So some of our offices have 80 to 90% conversion to lifestyle lenses. As a company, we're a little bit better than 60% of our 30,000 or so lenses that we do that are lifestyle lenses. So we have an education team that trains counselors on LASIK conversions, cataract conversions, into migrating the practice more to a cash pay practice. We also, the model that we have is an ODMD practice, and so we want our surgeons are happiest being in the operating room. And so we want them to do the things that only they can do and no one else can do in the practice. So their partner optometrist within the practice is doing everything at the top of their specialty, and then so on. So we have extenders that make the surgeon as efficient as can be. And then we do marketing. So our website is the busiest ophthalmology website in the country. We've had periods where we had up to 1 million hits to our website every month. And that's national. So again, we do that as far as marketing. And then the other is establish or develop a co-management network for them. So we have a sales team that visits optometrists and educates them about, what the practice is all about, what they do, and so forth. So it's mostly education. And then we have a research division. So at any time, we have 30 plus FDA clinical trials that are going that we're involved in. So the research division is also focused on research and getting studies and being involved in the different studies, whether in retina, glaucoma, cataract, pharmaceuticals, et cetera. But yeah, basically shifting the practice to where the ophthalmologist is doing what they want to do, being more in the operating room, seeing only the complex stuff that they're only the ones that can see, and then taking all their headaches away.
So after the sale, is that still the case? Like, are y'all, or is the company now buying 100% of the practices, or are they actively buying any more practice at this point, or was that just all in the ramp up while you were getting there?
We're very, very active in partnering with ophthalmologists. So we're acquiring many practices every year, and the model is still the same. It's a partnership model. So the ophthalmologist has a lot of incentive to work with us. And so the model is basically they get a percentage of their revenue plus a percentage of the bottom line. And so their incentive and our incentive is to make them as successful as possible. So their revenue is as high as can be. So they get a piece of that revenue, 30% plus of that revenue, depending on what specialty. And then depending on how much equity they have, which is anywhere between 30 and 49%, they get 30 to 49% of the bottom line as well. So our incentive is to run as efficient to practice as possible. So the bottom line is as healthy as it can be, and the top line is as healthy as it can be.
I like that model. That seems much more aligned, huh, Gary?
Yeah, absolutely. And also it is driven by an ophthalmologist who has deep expertise and success in this model. Not that other PE firms don't have, deep expertise as well, but this seems like partnering with someone who really understands, light years ahead of other practices, and understanding how the model between optometry and ophthalmology can work at its most efficient basis is really quite amazing, and that's really the way that we practice at Commonwealth Eye Surgery, and probably very similar to how you guys practice at Williamson Eye. That's fantastic, Tom. I want to shift gears real quick in the time we have left. I know that you are a man who enjoys giving back and has established a mission in Fiji, and I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about that and give us a little bit of the story about how that came to be and what you and your family have done there. And, maybe even if people are interested, if you're looking for, people to come and help out there, what that looks like. So.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a long story. I don't know how much time you have, but it involves people like, John DeLorean with the DeLorean car, and Jacques Cousteau, doing diving in Fiji and doing underwater photography, and then a Navy frogman that introduced my wife basically to Fiji, who was the head diver for Jacques Cousteau. And he saw the need for dentistry. My wife is a dentist, and so she went to serve in Fiji for a 3 years in a row. And then I went with her, and we saw the big need. And then there was a Dutch family that was growing marijuana in Fiji, that the Fijian government said you have 48 hours to vacate the premises and sell everything that you had. And so we bought an 850-acre coconut plantation.
Slash marijuana plantation.
And had 2 miles of beach frontage for a song, literally a song. And then, God put it in our heart to build a mission. And so that was built over a 3-year period of time. In 2008, so we can house 50 plus people, teams that can go there. We have state-of-the-art dentistry as well as state-of-the-art ambulatory surgery center. So we have 4 or 5 ophthalmology groups that go there every year, and we provide the vast majority of the eye care on the island, because the ophthalmologists on the island that we're in does not like to do surgery, so we do all the ophthalmology, all the cataract surgery and pterygium surgery there. But we have multiple specialties. So we have, GYN, it just came back doing some reconstructive plastic surgery, cleft lips, cleft palates, burns, etc., and head and neck surgery, goiters and parotid tumors. And so, GYN screening for cancer. And we have a full-time critical care MD there that does family care, diabetes, high blood pressure. They have the same problems we do, strokes and heart attacks, all lifestyle related stuff. So we do outreach into the villages around, and we take care of the people. Obviously, everything is for free. And then we have surgical teams, but we have, churches, schools, et cetera, that go there and take 40, 50 people, and they just do, service learning. We have multiple universities that send their, senior and junior students that are interested in dentistry and and medicine to just get exposed to service learning and what it's all about to be a physician or a dentist. It's beyond just a business, it's giving back. And so they get a real feel for that. And we really believe that people get a lot more out of going to the mission than they give, because it's a life-changing experience to a lot of people.
Tom, maybe just kind of like last word, like as I'm hearing you say that, like, I'm just wondering like what you're looking forward to, if anything else. I mean, think about it, Gary. I mean, if you've already done more surgery than just about anybody, and you've started your own thing and you've built it up to a massive scale, you've been able to go through a sale, but also have some control and directorship and partner with other practices. And you've become so successful that now you can call yourself a philanthropist for real. You're kind of up there with the Marnix Hirschsinks of the world. So, we've interviewed, people like you this season. So what else is there for you? Why are you doing this still? What excites you about the business or about ophthalmology in general? What do you have to look forward to? You've done it all.
Look, I mean, I'm talking to two surgeons who are like at the top of their game, who everybody looks up to. So you guys, been there, done that as well. And I have a lot of admiration for what you've accomplished in your life. I look at what we're doing as a company. It's kind of like, spreading the good news. It's like spreading the gospel. It's we have a brand of care that I really am very proud of. And I think that the more ophthalmologists, the more, you and, Gary get in touch with, and others like you, that have formed amazing practices that have an incredible reputation, that give great customer service, great clinical and surgical outcomes. The more we can touch, people and come alongside of them as partners to give that brand of care, I think the more fulfilled we are as professionals, and that's really what it's all about. So it's not about money anymore. It is more about the scorecard is, how many people can we touch, how many people can we make a difference in their life, and do it in a way that patients enjoy and love. We want to establish medical practices where they're unlike any other medical practices. They stand out, and the experience is such that they become ambassadors for the practice. And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, really about impact. And Tom, I think you've had an amazing impact on our profession, and honestly, I think on Blake and myself just in this 30-minute conversation. So again, from the bottom of our hearts, thank you so much for an opportunity to get to know you a little bit more. I speak on behalf of Blake and myself. If you're in our hometowns of Lexington or Baton Rouge, you'd be welcome at our practice and at our home. So thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you in person. This has been Ophthalmology Off the Grid. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Ophthalmology Off the Grid. And thank you to our guest, Dr. Tom Tooma, for sharing his experiences with us. Until next time.